Let's say you have an opportunity to actually tell someone who may be thinking that, well, you guys are greedy for not taking my insurance and not knowing like what happens behind the scenes. What would you tell them?
Yeah, everything of what we just talked about today of saying, are you aware that it could put a mental health diagnosis on your permanent health record, that they can audit your notes at any time, that they have access to hearing what you're talking about, what you're discussing. Are you okay with that? And then also that at some point, if they deem it not medically necessary, they can abruptly stop coverage and only cover so many sessions. And so one reason why we don't is because of all of what I just described, and that we don't have to jump through hoops. You can be in his counseling as long as you want, and it's just between you and I.
Wow, just that's wild. Hello, welcome back. And today I'm here with Crystal. Before we go into our conversation, we're going to continue from where we stopped back in 2024 last year. I don't know if you listened. If you did not, I'm going to leave a link for you to go back and listen. But we talked about going to a new year instead of a resolution, having just one word. And today we're going to talk about that. So Crystal, welcome back. Happy 2025. Happy New Year.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Absolutely. So before we even go into the one word, how has your 2025 been so far?
A tad cold.
Yes, tell me about it.
Yeah, January often feels very long, but outside of that, it's been good. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, well, same here. I was in the elevator with the front desk people, and that was another guy there who actually just moved from California to Kansas City.
Wow.
I was trying to tell him that's the wrong decision. Go back and, come back in June because it's so cold. Like my fingers are always hurting because I'm not a fan of the cold. I was raised in an island. I don't know what I'm doing here. But yeah. So anyway, as far as, what we talked about in 2025, you shared something with me when I talked to you about my laundry list of like resolutions.
Yeah.
And you talked about going into 2025 with a single word or just a new year.
Yep.
And today I want to know what word did you bring into 2025?
Yes. So to kind of recap, we talked about the purpose of doing a one word. And so instead of having a list of goals that, you come mid-January, you're frustrated because you're struggling, is that you take this one word and you apply it to how you make decisions, what you say yes and no to. And so I've been doing that for a number of years now. So I sat with some different words kind of at the end of December, and the word that got selected for 2025 is aliveness. Aliveness.
Okay. Why?
So let me explain. So that word popped for me because I want to be someone who takes every opportunity to fully embrace whatever it looks like. And so aliveness is something that when I go into, whether it's an experience at work or with friends or with family, that I am fully in and engaged and I'm present, and I allow fun and joy to surface. And I remember that there are so many things I want to do this year. And to do that, I have to embrace the aliveness of it and how it refuels me. And just hearing that word, I know sounds so basic, but it's very exciting to me.
Wow. Well, I love it. I feel like I've lived so many lifetimes, that is something that I get all the time. So I'm happy for you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But how did you get to that word? Like, because aliveness, it seems like you put a lot of thinking to it. With me, mine is present, but it was just like, present. I just woke up, I want to be present. But yours is it seems very, you took a lot of time to find a word that works for you. And it sounds very like intentional, just the process. So what was your process to get to that?
Yeah. So generally I pull up just a list of words and I kind of read through them and see which ones kind of surface for me. That's like, ooh, that's intriguing. And then that helps me narrow. And then I sit with those words. I come back at a different time and then see, okay, which ones are standing out? Is there one in particular? Is there any that I'm like, oh, I don't know about that? Because anytime there's resistance, we want to lean into it. And so I sat with that, and there was some similar words to aliveness, but that's the one that really resonated for me.
Right.
I work with my own person, and as coming up with kind of my own affirmations that I've been doing for the past 6 months, being someone that I want people to be drawn to in terms of energy so that when they come for counseling, they feel safe and secure. And so that's part of that process too, and aliveness and embracing that.
I love it. So what words made your top 5? And if you remember,
I honestly don't even recall some of the other ones.
It's been a while. So alive, I mean, it's a powerful word, like aliveness. Like, I feel like just saying that out loud will just help people just take a pause. Like, my word for 2025 is aliveness. And just to make a silly joke, it's going to be a very rough year. It seems like there's so much happening. So I feel like that word will always help recent the people back. So if you're listening to this, please let us know what your word for 2025 is. But yeah, so do you have any tips that you can share for someone who's in 2025 already, and now they're hearing this for the first time and they have a laundry list of resolutions and things to do, which I see till today. I see people just saying like, I just completed this on my checklist. So what do you have to say to them in 2025 already? Is there time to go back and be like, all right, let me find my word for this year?
Oh, yeah.
Or is it too late?
No, absolutely. Okay. Like any point you have self-reflection, do it. And again, goals aren't bad. Right. There's, I can't remember what day in January, but they call it Quitter's Day for a reason.
Yeah, that was last week.
Yeah.
I was actually driving on the radio and then they're like, quit, like today is like Quitter's Day. I think it was like January 10. I can't remember.
It's like I think it was like a Friday. Yeah. And they call it that because people set like, huge goals, which is again, great. But then when you're in the middle of a month, and I think I touched on this last time, where December is all about embracing the good. I'll take all the things that are nice and yummy. And then January, we're going to take it all away. And it's very strict. And it's also very cold outside and all the holiday lights are coming down. And so you're going to go from one extreme to the other. And it generally doesn't work too well when you swing to the opposite. And so big goals, you can get discouraged. You can be like, oh, I'm kind of over this. I'm sure we've seen the memes that says like, how far are we into January? And it feels like we're already in month 4.
Yes. I've actually been sharing a bunch of memes as well of like, it's like this guy who's like sitting on like a swing. And then the caption says, I believe it says something in the lines of like, man, what a rough year. And then it says, Chief, it's just January.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I was like, I feel that because, family, because, they're all like immigrants. So it's like, I'm getting so many like feedback because they know that I work in like policy and all these things. So I've become the person who have to explain everything. So I'll just randomly get a call or a text. They're like, hey, like, what does this mean? Like, what's happening? Does it mean we have to leave?
Oh, no.
And then I was like, oh my God, no, you're fine. You're fine, Uncle, Mom, you're fine. Everybody's fine. This is just distraction. Just focus. Just ignore it. But yeah, so I can relate to that. But one thing before we pivot to, and a question that I found on your social media platforms, which I can hint, which is insurance. So I just want to say that I'm not very knowledgeable in this space. I don't know anything about insurance. So I'm just going to ask her some really not so great questions and hopefully we can get to something. But yeah, so as far as going into 2024 now, like how do you feel your word is doing so far? Like, is that even like a metrics that you like follow with aliveness? Do you go back and be like, all right, it's been 2 weeks, 3 weeks now, whatever week. Did I do anything to make sure that I'm sticking to that? Yeah. Commitment that you made for yourself?
Yep. Yes, that's a great question. And I don't know if I have any specific parameters that I go by, but especially with this word in particular, I go off the energy of just how people interact with me. And then also like making sure that I am doing things that I find enjoyable. And so there's been several times where I involved in something very exciting and I'm not up at 5 a.m. like a nerd being like, okay, let's do this. And so that again is reason for me to be like, oh yeah, I'm in this. Like I feel aliveness, like coursing, and that's so exciting. And I hate the cold as well, but I'm just like, yeah, we're rolling with it. I can't really do anything about it. With the punches. And so, but I'm not going to I don't want to allow something as simple as that to derail what I've set up for this year.
Right. Huh. Well, good for you. Cause I definitely am like, I can't stand the cold. But I like that you are extending the word to pretty much everything else that you do. Cause I'm in my mind, I'm just like work, life, but in other areas I can ignore it. But you are like, nah, we're extending it to everything that we do. We're going to make sure we're alive in this and that, either off or on. And off or on meaning work or home. I guess it's both on.
Different forms.
My brain is trying to like just metrify. Is that even a word? Metrify?
Not quite sure. That's okay. We'll go with it.
I spend way too much time in the business world, and so I'm trying to detox my brain to just get out of that. But anyway, so far. I want to, so far, it's been a great conversation, but I do want to talk about, just insurance in general.
Yes.
One thing that I keep seeing on your social media platform is like people asking, are you in my network? And then I was like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
And then, and I'll see you guys will keep responding to, those questions. No, unfortunately we are not. And then I was like, wait, what is that? So, I guess my first question is like, what exactly is in network and out of network?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Insurance is an important conversation a lot of people get frustrated with. And so I hope that we can provide some clarity. But in or out of network means that you're going to a provider who is either in contract with the insurance company that you have, or they are not. And so if they are, then you could potentially get more benefits of a lower copay. Deductible plays into that as well. And then if they're out of network, you might be paying more out of pocket.
Interesting. So like insurance, for example, this is me trying to understand this because I'm still battling with this concept. That's why whenever I go see a doctor or anything, I just pay out of pocket because I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. But you were saying, so every practice or every hospital in the US would have a contract with an insurance agency.
If they choose to.
If they choose to, yes.
Yes.
And then, so individuals will get coverage through that insurance agency. And then the insurance will give them a list, or the app will tell them this hospital is covered by us.
That's right.
So you can go in, and they also apply on the head, the body.
Anything.
Anything has to be covered by an agency.
Yep.
Okay, I see.
I mean, there are places that are strictly private pay.
Oh, okay.
But which we'll get to. But yeah, if you want to utilize insurance, someone in your network, then you go through that setup that they have.
Interesting. So I guess for my lack of a better word, my dumb understanding of like how to make this make sense is like getting a Netflix subscription, getting a Hulu, Max, Amazon Prime. But you can buy a DVD and just get all that yourself, or you can go with them because they have the infrastructure, they have their partnerships, they get all the content. You can just go and partner with them. But every now and then you'll find content on Amazon that's not on Netflix.
That's correct.
And you may go get a subscription for a little bit, or you just be like, all right, I'm just gonna wait until Amazon or Netflix has it.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Wow, like it took. I'm just reading your comments, like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
But is this like being especially out of out of network? Is it more so like a geographic thing, like where you have to be in a certain location to be covered, or is it a statewide or national? So
it all depends on if the provider wants to be with a certain company, and there's a whole list of reasons why they would or wouldn't. And so for our practice specifically, there are only a few that we are in network with, which is where people get frustrated. Right. But then it's understanding, okay, why wouldn't someone go with insurance? And we can get to that later in the conversation. Right. But yeah, so sometimes it's geographic, like Blue KC, like Blue Cross Blue Shield. There's a Blue KC specific location piece to it, but there's also a broader Blue Cross Blue Shield network as well. And so sometimes it's geographic, but more so than that, it's list of reasons why or why not. Interesting. And then you like share that there's some practice that don't even like have those partnership with those agencies. Yep. Like, why do you think that happens? Number one, and number two, like what exactly is the benefit of having that? I guess it's for the for the patients. And then the third question is like, why? I guess what are the lists of problems that happens when you have those partnerships? Does it limit you or the patient, etc.? But I guess we can start with the first question. So first question being the. So I actually forgot, and I was hoping that you will remember. But basically, the first question is like,
when you were running a private practice or a hospital and you decided not to partner with them. So we can start there.
Yeah. So I guess their questions are kind of related because to go with an insurance company, they require a contract and they have rates that they provide for the different licenses and providers that come into play. And some insurance companies are great about reimbursement rates so that they give the provider a good means of living. And then others are not. And so then some companies might not choose to go with them because they could be at a very, very reduced cost. And if you're in private practice, you're not being paid for all the things that you're not doing outside of that face-to-face session. And so when you add up, I have to pay for all these different things, you're now in the zero because the insurance company didn't reimburse you at a rate that is helpful. And so that's one big reason why some people don't choose certain insurance companies.
It sounds like a big problem. That's so interesting. I was actually on like Reddit and I was just trying to understand out of network, in network. And I saw like a therapist who like shared that, every now and then, like the insurance companies would send their own therapist that's with them to like, review, your interaction with a patient to basically figure out whether it's like covered or not.
Yeah.
Whether is that real?
Yes. So the insurance, if your session isn't included in medically necessary, they can deny coverage.
Interesting.
And so at any point they can audit and say, I want access to the patient or the client's health record, which in my opinion, that is a breach on privacy, which is why I would encourage if you can not use insurance, then you don't even have to go through any of those hoops and no one even has to know anything about what you're doing in counseling or to dictate whether it's medically necessary or not.
That's interesting.
And then the other side of it too is if you want to use insurance, you have to have a mental health diagnosis, which then goes on your permanent health record. And so if you have life insurance or not, sometimes that can affect even coverage as it relates to that because there's still a stigma.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it's very ingrained that people don't realize and they assume they want to make assumptions. They don't accept insurance because they want more money and it's just about the money. Again, money is part of it, but also it's in protection a lot of the times for the client as well.
Interesting. So why do you think like insurance companies or all the individuals aren't even aware of that? Because to me, even in my circle, my partner, she believes in insurance. It's like, nah, I don't do insurance because I don't understand it. No one is, even the agencies don't take time to explain what it is. I think it's it's too big. There's just too much going on. And I don't really get the concept of it. Maybe that's because I've lived in different countries and I've seen, people, managing their own healthcare and they've been fine. But America is the first place where I'm like, this is like the most powerful country in the world, but the healthcare is so backwards. Like, I guess in your opinion, like why do you think that problem keeps happening, especially on the trust piece? Because I feel like, in the whole point of insurance is to protect, the patient, but it sounds like that's not the case here.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think it's just profitability for the companies and then it comes down to control. Yeah. And so that's why private pay is a beautiful option because it's just between you and your provider.
Right. Wow. That's wild. Because, the reason why I changed the name from Freedom Project to Forum Nexus is because the more I was doing this project, I noticed that the entire audience has become more like, like the clinicians, the therapists, they're actually tuning in more and asking these questions. And I just had a conversation with a dentist, Dr. Jeremy Fry, and then he was telling me just why he was actually building a company that basically protects, other dentists, other DDS, which I just learned from him. but so his point was that to make sure that when it comes to, new, like dentists coming into the field, they actually have a future in the space because he noticed that, like private equity was coming in, buying all these massive hospitals and then consolidating all of them into one. And then quality of care was going down. But in this conversation, I'm still trying to wrap my head around insurance in general. I guess at the end of the day, like what can an individual do to like protect themselves? Which, to your point is like to figure out how to pay for yourself. But I know we're in a time where people are struggling,
Sure.
To like pay for even, anything lately. So how does one, try to get access to mental health and I guess not go broke, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we have plans where people will meet every other week or they'll meet every 3 to 4 weeks because financially it makes more sense for them. And then also we partner with a lot of churches or other organizations that help pay for a certain number of sessions. And that can be really helpful if you're connected to a larger thing like that can help. Right. And then also it's just about prioritizing where you're spending your money. Like if you go out and go to a restaurant, like you're going to spend, on a date night or whatever, a good drop $100 or more with drinks, food, whatever. Right. And so can I take those and put time in between the times I go out to a restaurant and can I insert that, putting it for my mental health. Right. And so it's just about redistributing where you're spending your money. And also we have an intern who has a reduced rate and there are some of us that have sliding scale options. Right. And so all of those are conversations that we have with people because we understand.
Yeah. Wait, so what exactly is a sliding scale option? Because I just heard you say that. I'm not that smart, so you gotta have to bring the vocabulary down.
Yeah, so there a number of us actually on the team will have a couple of different openings available for someone who can't afford the full rate, and so we will see them at that reduced rate, and then let's say we have 3 spots open, and those are our reduced rate slots, then when those are full and then that person transitions out, we can open it up to another one. And that's our way of being able to say, we want to have a living too, but also we want to be accessible and affordable. Right. And so then we'll have a number of openings for that. It's just a reduced fee.
Interesting. Yeah. So, I can put more info on that on the, like the show note as well, if you want to extend that to people listening. But when, I guess when it comes to, I'm trying to talk about insurance and not sound like a conspiracy theorist because it's like, the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. Is there a future to like fix this problem? Like on mental health? I guess my question is like, why do you think people still don't understand this problem within insurance? And why are we still doing insurance?
Yeah, I guess part of it is people can lump mental health in the entire medical community. And so if their thought process is, oh, I go to the doctor, I use my insurance. Why wouldn't I use my insurance when I go to my mental health provider? Which again is an option, but I don't think they know all the ins and outs of what we've already talked about. And so then it's deciding, okay, what are the pros and cons for me here? Like, do I already have a mental health diagnosis? So is it really bothersome to me if it's already on my health record? Maybe not. Maybe I have a great copay. Maybe my deductible's been met for this year. And so it makes more sense financially. But in terms of fixing it in the future, I think it starts with insurances being able to provide reimbursement rates that make sense. Because I think you touched on it earlier, quality of care. And so if you are, let's say, reimbursing a master's level clinician at, let's say, $50 per session, okay, and then you're not counting in like any other costs that they have with that clinician is going to have to stack their caseload because they're only getting 50. And so then when you have a clinician who's stacking their caseload because they need it to have an income that makes sense for them and their family, they're then closer to burnout, which then leads to lower quality of care. So you increase the reimbursement rate to make sense of like, oh, this clinician has just as much education and experience as this person over here. Why would I not give them a higher rate? So if you equal that out, then the clinician won't have to stack their caseload, and then therefore you'll see a better quality of care. I think it starts there, to be honest. Yeah.
I can be very like aggressive. I was like, hey, like we just need to have a blackout where no one is taking insurance, like complete. But then, the patient will suffer because not everyone can afford it. So it's like that, that heavy balance. Like, do this to make sure that the future gets better, but in the process, people are getting impacted.
And then the other part of it is mental health diagnosis shouldn't be required. Like if I'm going through divorce or if I'm going through a life transition, I shouldn't have to tell my insurance like, oh, I'm depressed or I have depression or now I have generalized anxiety or now I have PTSD or whatever. And then that stays on my record for life. Right. And so versus like, oh yeah, I'm going through something that's really challenging and I'm benefiting from processing through that with somebody. Right. And that shouldn't be held against me.
One thing that I noticed when it comes to corporate America is like, normally people's jobs are linked to their healthcare. And if they leave, then they don't have healthcare. I'm sorry, like they don't have insurance. So the insurance is linked to their job. Does that happen in, like counseling as well?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the people who come in are generally their insurance is through either their employer or their spouse's employer.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So it's like, it's so weird to me because like, what if you like get a divorce? Now you're like, I don't have insurance anymore. And then if you don't work at the job, you don't have insurance anymore.
Yeah.
Does it work the same as well? When it comes to like the deductibles, if you have a job and you get insurance through the job?
So it depends on what type of plan they have. So sometimes people will call in thinking they want to use their insurance and then they find out that they have a high deductible plan and they wouldn't even, they would still be paying out of pocket regardless, but then they have the privacy, the breach of privacy, the potential medical necessary and then the diagnosis and all of that. And so then it turns out, oh, well, I'll just do private pay because then I can avoid all of that. But some people have great plans where they just have a $20 copay or whatever, and then they can have a less fee out of pocket. So it just depends. And every employer is different. Every plan that even an employee picks is different.
Wow. This is so interesting. I'm trying so hard not to go into conspiracy because I'm just like, hey, something is not right here. Wow. Well, thank you for that because I didn't know any of these. And it's funny how everything started by me seeing people just saying out of network. And I was like, what the heck is that? Like, and the more I look into it, the crazier, like the comments, the comments get like even to the, I also found that, I saw this interaction between someone who on Reddit who was just trying to figure out why is it that the insurance is not accepting it? And the lady was sharing, and then she was like, oh, and I used to work in healthcare. I had to pay parking at my own job. I was like, what the hell? Like nurses have to pay parking up to $100 a month just to use their own building's parking spot.
Wow.
To me, I'm just like, yo, this is crazy. Like, and that happens because the hospital will license the actual parking lot, which is owned by a private company. So it's like we've marketize every aspect of society from the human body, from your hair all the way to your toe, to the assets that we own, to a point that nurses have to pay $100 an hour just to park. And when it comes to like you guys' insurance, your license, whatever states you want to practice, you have to get a license, which is crazy to me. Yeah. And then I was like, why are we so greedy? Like we've build a society just predicated on greed, and now the patients are paying for it. But yeah, I'm trying not to sound like a conspiracy theory. Can you help me not sound like a conspiracy theory and tell me something that we can do as a group, I guess, to fix this problem?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like I think honestly, that's why we are mostly private pay, is because And the challenge with that is if someone won't allow us this conversation, then we just get pegged as part of the problem of greed. Right. When in reality, it's not about that. It's about...
That is a beautiful perspective. Thank you for that. Because that is true. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, continue. But just that, if you're calling around and you're finding that most people are private pay, like it's not just for your providers that are doing that. It's also for you. And be willing to hear the whole story.
Wow. Well, we're in a time where nobody got time for the whole story. Nowadays, people are always just like, I just want to hear my own opinions first, and whatever you hear, great, but I'm not hearing anything. Again, Abraham, it's not conspiracy time. But anyway, so as far as, let's say you have an opportunity to actually tell someone who may be thinking that, well, you guys are greedy for not taking my insurance and not knowing like what happens behind the scenes. What would you tell them?
Yeah, everything of what we just talked about today, of saying, are you aware that it could put a mental health diagnosis on your permanent health record, that they can audit your notes notes at any time, that they have access to hearing what you're talking about, what you're discussing. Are you okay with that? And then also that at some point, if they deem it not medically necessary, they can abruptly stop coverage and only cover so many sessions. And so one reason why we don't is because of all of what I just described, and that we don't have to jump through hoops. You can be in his counseling as long as you want, and it's just between you and I.
Wow. Just that's wild. Oh my God. Oh man. Healthcare, American healthcare. It's so interesting. Well, like, thank you for that, because I didn't know any of this. I can't believe my curiosity now is leading to me becoming a conspiracy theorist. I was like, someone needs to do something about this. But yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess just to kind of wrap up, what we discussed today was in-network and out-of-network, which is basically for patients to understand what is the difference and what are the benefits of it, and I guess what's the cost to you as a patient, which is you were giving your insurance access to all this, to your own personal data.
Yeah.
And we don't really know what they do with that data. It could be sell, because we used to target other people that look like you. As an advertiser, I know back then, whenever we get data, is to find people that match that, so that we can show them what our previous clients buy, because you make money. You just keep, we are very predictable as humans. You can find someone who has the same behavior as me and the same things that I like. They most likely like it, and they'll end up buying whatever product that I'm into, like mics, cameras, and stuff. There's another Abraham, probably named Joseph, out there that likes exactly what I like. But when it comes to your health, it's a completely different thing, because number one, that's your own personal health, especially your mental health.
Yeah.
So I guess at the end of the day, what can we do about the trust aspect? I know we've kind of touched on a bunch of stuff, but I'm trying to just wrap up what we've talked about, so that we can have some good educational pieces for people.
Yeah, I would say if you find someone and you've been doing research about finding a counselor, and you find someone, you call them and you click, and the only thing that's keeping you from doing it is because they're not in your insurance, like, maybe understand that, maybe you click and find this connection for a reason. Because if you go and find someone else who is in network, you might not click, and you might even be longer in therapy because they're in network, and that feels like your only option. And so just be open to, if that's the only reason stopping you, like, be open to thinking, maybe it's okay. Maybe I can rearrange my finances. Maybe I can go every 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah.
Huh, okay. No, like, that's actually part of the problem of people not finding the right therapist, is because they're limited to a set group of therapists.
Yep.
And so they have to do that, and they keep jumping from one therapist to another because they can't find that. Because either the therapists themselves are like having someone who's pressuring them to just do it. Is, for example, BetterHelp. It's, even though every now and then you may find a good one, but majority of the time I don't hear really great things about them. It's like, I'm trying not to say all the conspiracy stuff that I consume over the weekend. But yeah, so basically finding, a therapist that works for you, and, just be willing to pay out of pocket to avoid your information being, shared with who God knows who.
Yeah.
And if you can, and this is my perspective, if you can afford paying $7 a cup of coffee a day, then I think, maybe just, make your own coffee home and just save that $7. And by the end of the month, and then go see someone that you actually like talking to, instead of a corporation that's trying to just get as much dollars as they can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's so hard to not talk about insurance and not sound like a conspiracy theorist, because it's a massive problem that I feel like we don't talk about enough. Anyway, so as far as Tenfold Counseling, which is your practice, you like talked about ways that people can work with you. And is there anything that you would like to share as we're in 2025 now? I feel like more people are wanting to see a therapist now, and then needing that one-to-one.
Yeah.
And I know you offer virtual and also in person in Kansas City. Is that only in Kansas City for now?
In person for,
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So is there anything that you would like to share to, just as a closing, just to kind of help people have faith? Because if I share, it's not going to be positive.
Another thing too is that when you call and are only looking for a network, you find that a lot of people have waiting lists because they're limited. Yes. And so then it could be 3 to 4 months before you get in to see somebody. And I actually have several counselors on my team right now that have immediate availability. And a few of them have reduced rates, and then the others are at their full rates, but they're incredible clinicians and they're wanting to see you. So you should reach out.
Well, that's I think that this is a good conclusion as to like what the problem is. Just so that people can know, because you know, I remember reading the comments, you know, some people still are confused. They're like, why not?
Yeah.
Just take my dang insurance.
Yeah.
But you know, and it's online. You guys don't have the opportunity to actually explain why you don't get that. So thank you for this breakdown. But yeah, so I guess just to wrap up, you know, I hope you've understand in-network and out of network listening. If there's any more question about insurance that you want us to talk about, or anything about this messy healthcare system that you want us to discuss, I would love to get those questions from you. But in the meantime, remember, no longer Freedom Project. This is Forum Nexus now. And if you missed the first episode, I talked about why we did the rebrand. So you can go in the comment section and rewatch that. And again, I guess in closing, do you have any closing message for people that are struggling with January already? And we have 11 more months to go.
Find your aliveness and go and reflect on some words if you haven't already. And just remember, we're almost done with January. February will come. The spring season is on its way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Keep
looking
going.
forward to summer. So, I guess find your aliveness and also be present
Yes,
in
that's
that
right.
aliveness. So
That's right.
Again, thank you so much for this breakdown. This is insane. So thank you.
Yeah.
I have so much research to do when I get home. I may actually write a bunch of articles today whenever I get home. I hope you can stick around and keep watching and, you know, getting more educated on what's happening, because we're in a very interesting time right now. And I think, you know, it's not about informing yourself. It's just being aware of, the critical components of society, insurance, your healthcare, to be able to do better decisions, to be able to just live your life and be alive, just like as Crystal mentioned.
Yeah.
But again, thank you for your time. And this is Forum Nexus, and I will see you again.